Spool Administration. So spool work process. Spool work process is used to handle the print request. It is used to handle the print request. So for example, in our organization, there are so many people are working. So for working, they are going to give the print request. So by sitting in front of their laptop, they are going to give the print request. How they are going to give? So by giving the printer, they are going to just give the print request into the SAP system. So further, the user should have authorizations. So then only the user can able to print the what are the required documents. So this is about like once we configure this spool work process into the SAP, then only the users can able to give the print request, and the person should have authorizations to print the documents. So about the authorizations, the SAP security team going to give the authorizations. And coming to the spool work process parameters, this is the parameter rdisp/wp_no_SPO. Minimum we can configure one spool work process. Maximum based upon requirement we can configure. So actually it is set by 1 only by default. So whenever we are installing SAP into the system, by default we are going to get the one spool work process. Spool work process is enough for all SAP system. See here in SM50, see here, one spool work process is there. Here also you can check. One spool work process is there. The parameter for spool work process, where we can check the parameters. RZ done, right? RZ done, default profile, extended maintenance, change, create, hard disk, WP_no_SPO is our parameter, right? So it is set by one spool work process. If you want to increase, you can increase, set by 2 or 3 like that. So just click copy here, and then after you can click go back and save, and then after you need to restart the system, then only it is going to be reflected. So this is about spool work process parameter and TEMSE. So to understand this spool work process, first we need to understand what is TEMSE. So what is meant by TEMSE means TEMSE is a temporary sequential objects. So whenever a user gives the print request, so those are like a spool request. Those are comes and store into this TEMSE location. The user request come and store into this TEMSE actually. So this is the use of TEMSE, and the way the TEMSE, the storage locations we are having two types. We are having TEMSE storage locations. The first one is OS level, second one is DB level. For OS level, the parameter is RSPO store underscore location. If you set the value is G, the TEMSE location is set by OS. The path for is OS level, SAP MNT, SID, global is for all application servers. If you want to see the particular application server, this is the path USR SAP SID sys global. And if you want to see DB, if the TEMSE storage location was set by DB, the parameter value is set by same, the parameter RSPO / store underscore storation equal to DB. If it is set by DB, the DB is nothing but tables, right? So all the data is going to be stored into the tables. The spool requests are coming from the users, those are come and store into the tables. The TST01 is the having the raw data in it. Initially, whatever the data is there into the with the user, it is come and store into this TST01 table. It is holding the raw data, or else we can call it as a metadata. And next it is come and store into the TST03 table. It is a formatted data. It is the printable formatted data, we can say. Next, the spool work process. Spool work process reads from the TEMSE, and and it formats the spool request into a printable specific data. So based upon the access method, the spool work process is going to be convert the spool request into the printable request, and it is send it to the configured printer. So this is the duty of spool work process. The spool requests are created when a user print the documents either via dialog process. Dialog means the user is directly give the printing, and it is reached to the spool work process. Then it is reached to the device, and as well we can set by the background jobs as well. So whenever we are scheduling a job, it is related to the print request, that is also done by the background jobs. So dialog and background process this spool request actually. So that is what dialog and background process this spool request. TEMSE storage location defined by this the value is G. The path is like this OS level. If it is set by DB, the storage location will be stored into these tables. Now I am checking RZ11 for this store location. So this is the parameter. So see here, it is set by DB location. The store location set by DB. That means it is going to be saved into the tables like TST01, TST03, where we can check the store tables. SC16 is the T code to check the tables information. I'm just visiting SC16, TST01. This is about the tables information. And as well, we are having the TST03. See here, the spool related request. The spool work process. What is the duty of spool work process? Spool work process reads the data from the TEMSE, or if it is set by DB, it is reads from the tables, and then after it is going to be convert the spool request into the printable request based upon the access method. Access method next we are going to discuss about these access methods, and it sends it to the configured printer. So whatever the printer is configured, it is going to send it to that configured printer. That is the duty of spool work process. How to configure the printer? So by using this SPAD, SPAD is the T code to configure the printers. And we discussed just now access methods. So we have three types of access methods. So one is local access method, remote access method, front access method. Local access method means within a network or within a server, we configure that, we are calling it as a local access method. Remote access method means if we configure the printer outside of the network or outside of the server, that we are calling it as a remote access method. The front access method is like if we configured with for user specific, that means irrespective of network, irrespective of server, we configured, that we are calling it as a front end printer. To configure the printer, the T code is what? SPAD is the T code to configure the printer. So once you hit the T code, we just come and output devices, we just click display, and then after you came into this, you just click change icon, and then after you just create the, I'm just giving test printer, I'm just giving output device name, I'm giving the shortcut name is like a TST something to identify purpose. I'm just giving short name for this. I'm selecting the device. So now I want to configure. The requirement is like you need to configure this. They are going to give you the whatever the device, printer device is there, they're going to give you. For example, Canon. So this is there into the, and next we need to select the spool server. As I told you, like if it is a remote server, we need to select that particular server. And then after we need to move to the access method. We discussed just now, this is about the access method. right? So see here, we are having so many access methods. For local access methods, we are having two types. If you select C, that we can work with the Windows system. If you give L type, that will work with the Unix system. If you are going with the remote access method, if you take U as, it will work with the Unix system. If you take S, it will work with the Windows system. So based upon your access method, you need to select these methods. Local access, if it is a Windows system, you need to select the C. The local access method, if it is a Windows, you need to select this C type, direct operating system call. If it is a Linux system, local access method, you need to select the L type. This is the L type. So you need to select this L method. If it is a remote access method, U for Unix, you can easily remember. S for Windows here in remote access method. U for Unix, S for Windows. U for Unix. This is the method. S for Windows. And next we are having front end. See here, front end we are having two types. This F type is older one. Like if you give the F type, this is calling to the front end method, front end access method. And this is the older one. If you give the G type also, that works. It is the latest one. It will give you the seamless access to the front end access. Every user can use by this method, F or G, right? So this is F type. See here, printing on front end computer. If it is a G also, the front end printer with the control technology. So that's what this is the latest one. This is the older one. So this is about local, remote, and front end. And we are having so many access methods as well. So I'm just selecting L type. So I want to take it as a local type. So, and then after, you just click save. Specify host printer name. So we need to specify the one. I'm just giving some name. Say test printer name. I'm just giving. See, output device test printer was saved. See here, the test printer came here. The device type is Canon type. Which server? The spool server. This is the spool server. And where we can check the spool request. So SP01 is the T code to monitor the spool request. So this is about spool request. So whatever the request is coming from the user, we can monitor here. So this is output request. This is a vote. Output request is handled by the spool work process, right? So this is where we can check the output request. So once you click execute, you can find the spool number, output request number, date, time. So whatever the details you can find here. Even you can find the statuses. Spool request statuses you can find here. So this is where we can check the and where we can monitor the spool request. SP01 is the T code to monitor. And for user specific print request, where we can monitor. P02 is the T code to check the user specific print request. So this is about list of spool request. This is about file spool request displayed. File spool request without output request. That means actually there is no device in it. This is about SP02. User specific spool request we can monitor in SP02. For all spool request we can monitor in SP01. So see here the spool request number, created by whom, which user we can give here. So if you want to filter like date and date wise, you can give the data as well. So if you want to select the client wise also, you can give. So if you want to give authorization specific, we can check here. So if you want to device like output device with you're having the problem with the particular device, you can mention the particular device as well. With the username, you can mention username as well. The spool request also you can filter. These are like filters you can monitor. Otherwise, you can just execute. These are like output request. The same thing we are going to observe whatever we are having in spool request. Request number, created by whom, the client, which client, then output device, the same thing. You just command execute here. So we are going to get this kind of output. The spool request number, date, time, we are going to observe these many things. The status is also we can observe at what stage the spool request is right now. This is where we can check and monitor the spool request SP01, SP02. And as well we can check the TEMSE consistency. We have temporary storage object is there now, where we can monitor that one. SP12 is the T code to check the TEMSE consistency. See here, TEMSE administration of temporary sequential data. Actually there is no data in it, that is why it is showing like this. So you just command hit SP12. This is a training system, we are not having any devices in it, so that is why it is not showing any results. So if you want to check temporary storage area TEMSE, so the sequence wise we can observe, like, so how many users are giving the printers, like objects wise we can select the temporary, even the printer numbers wise we can monitor. Those things we can monitor. Mostly in TEMSE we can observe the objects details over there. This is about how we are going to configure the printer and how we are going to select the access methods. Once we configure if it is a local access method, we need to select these types. If it is a remote access method, we need to select these types. If it is a front access method, we need to select these types. So these are the access methods in the spool request. Next, spool printing architecture. So how the flow will be. So the user is requesting for a print and how it will went to complete status. Now we are going to discuss step by step. So the first one is the user sends a print request. So then next, second, SAP creates a spool request and stores in a TEMSE. And the storage location, if you define RSPO/store location equal to DB, the spool request will be stored into these tables, TST01, TST03. Already discussed it, like TST0 is holding the raw data and TST03 holding the formatted data, like it is ready for printing. Here each spool request becomes the TEMSE object. Each spool request becomes the TEMSE object, and by this object name we can easily identify in SP01, SP02. So we can find the spool request number by this object name we can identify. In fourth step, spool work process. The spool work process. Now spool work process comes into the picture. Spool work process picks the request from the TEMSE tables. If it is defined by storage location equal to DB, it is the spool work process go and picks from the TEMSE tables. If it is like the storage location value instead of DB, if we have G, it is go into that path and selects from that path, and then the status becomes the in process. We can observe in SP01 or SP02, we can observe the status, the spool request status, we can observe it is in process. And then spool work process format the spool request to output print request. The spool work process, what it is doing, it is formatting. That means it is converting the spool request into output print requests. And in the fifth step, output request sent to configured printer device. So if we configured whatever the device we just now shown, no, like if it is like a Dell or HP or whatever the device, if you configure, it will send it to that configured device as we configured in the SPAD. And next, in the sixth step, device printer process. The device printer, that is nothing but the printer, whatever the configured device, the printer only now. So that printer process the output request. That the printer is going to process the output request and then deliver the print copy. And then after we can observe the status in SP01. If it is like a global, we can go to this SP01. If it is like a single user specific, user can visit the SP02 and they can check their own print statuses. And we can observe the status in SP01 or SP02. We can observe the statuses we can show completed. So this is the flow of spool printing architecture. So this is we can easily remember. So I'm repeating. User sends a print request, and then it becomes the spool request by the SAP, and then it will store into the TEMSE. TEMSE, what it will saying, like TEMSE, if it is like a DB, if it is like a G, the location will be different. That's it. Then it comes into the picture of spool work process. The spool work process convert the spool request into the output request, and then after the output request comes here. So this SPAD is once we configured only. So output request to here it is, output request is coming here, and then output request comes by received by device, and then it is printing by the device, and then after we can observe the status in SP01 or SP0. This is about the spool printing architecture. Next, spool statuses, where we can monitor the spool statuses after print request generated, like we can monitor in SP01, right? So we can have the statuses like wait. If it shows you wait, it is waiting for spool work process. The spool work process go and takes the spool request from the TEMSE, right? And this is what wait. If it is the status will show it to you wait. It is waiting for spool work process. And if you see the status in PROC, that means in processing, it is currently being formatted and sent it to printer. In processing, that means the spool work process converted that raw data into a printable format. In processing status, the completed printing finished successfully. ERR, that means error. Printing failed due to error. Archive, output is archived after printing. Finalized, no longer required and can be deleted. Finalized means the printing is successfully done. This print request is no longer is needed. We can delete. So these are the spool statuses we are having in spool. SP01 is for monitoring, right? I'm on SP01. I'm just executing this one, spool request. See here, we can observe spool number, type, date, time. So this is where we can check the statuses. So by watching this, the statuses we can observe at what status it is right now. SP01 is for monitoring this spool request. These are the statuses we are having with the spool. Next, spool issues and troubleshooting. The spool request is stuck in wait. Stuck in wait condition means I already shown you here. Wait condition means it is awaiting for by spool work process. So that is the reason. The first reason is waiting for spool work process. Stuck in wait condition means there is no availability of spool work process. So for that, how we are going to troubleshoot? So we just go to the RZ10 and then after change the parameter value of hard disk WP. No, SPO is the parameter for spool work process, right? If there is no spool work process, we need to increase the value 2 or 3 or whatever based upon requirement only. It is not mandatory. This is how we can troubleshoot we are having. If you get error status and how we are going to troubleshoot all this. So if you get this error status means it is not processing. That is what is the issue then? Printer may went offline or printer is not configured correctly or misconfigured, and maybe due to printer settings, and sometimes network issues as well. Network issues. So on this we can understand it. So printer went offline, so we need to set printer should be online. So then we can configure like that. And then after, printer settings may misconfigured. Printer configuration is not successfully done. So we need to change the printer. Someone is change the printer settings, and we need to change the setback the printer settings. And network issues, due to network issues. So if we get the network issues, we need to contact the network team or voice team we are having. So we need to contact them. So for this settings, printer settings, we need to visit the SPAD, right? Wherever we are going to create the configure the printers, so we need to visit the SPAD, SPAD. Here only we configure the printer settings, right? Just to go and display, and if it is configured like this, so we just now configure this. Suppose someone is changing the printer settings, double click on it. If you want, you can change the settings as usual. Just save. So what are the host information, what are the printer, so access method, if you want, you can change the access method or settings. So whatever the information, if you want, you can change. So this is where we can configure, this is where we can change the settings for printer. Same, SPAD is the T code to configure and change the settings of the printers. And next, TEMSE full. TEMSE full means, what is the use of TEMSE? With the help of TEMSE, like all the spool request is going to be stored into the TEMSE. This is like a temporary sequential memory or temporary sequential object. So those are command store into the, if it is like the location RSPO, store location equal to, if you mention the, that is a G, that will be stored into the OS level. If it is like a DB, that will be stored into the database tables. We know that. For example, these are on the tables in DB, like stored on TST01 or TST03, right? So these are the tables TST03. The TEMSE, the temporary spool request, is going to be stored into these tables if you configure the value as DB, right? So, and then if it is like a file system, like the value is G, if you mention, those are stored into the file systems. What are the file systems? I already told you, like SAP MNT, SID global, or else user SAP SID sys global. So those are the system file systems. So we can check. This is where the TEMSE is full. If it is DB, these tables are full. If it is file system, the file system storage is full. So we need to recheck. So how to troubleshoot on this issue then? So whatever the request, those are comes and stored into these tables. So whatever the spool request are comes and stored into these file systems. So we need to delete the old spool request. That is the only. So we just so before deleting that, you just go and check spool consistency. Just go and check SP12, where we can check the TEMSE consistency. SP12 is the T code to check the TEMSE consistency. And here we can check that this, because there is no printers configured. This is a training system. So this is where we can check the statistics and the space usage of the printers. So we can check the TEMSE consistency. If it is a real-time system, we can get the full system information about the statistics and the space information over there. And then after, otherwise we can delete the old spool request. So where we can delete those old spool request, we can delete in, we can monitor in SP01, as well as we can delete the old spool requests. So see here, you assume that there are n number of requests are there generated. So this is a, like this is a new date only. So assume that this is a older one, like where we can delete the more than 14 to 30 days, we can delete the old spool request. So you just click this one and just delete the spool request. That's it. The request is going to be deleted. Are you sure you want to delete spool request number? It is stating like asking like this. So if you click yes, that request is going to be deleted. I'm not going to do right now. So, and as well, we can have the user own spool mountain, right? This is like SP01 is for all server. This is SP02 is the user specific spool request. So if you come here, this is where also we can delete the old spool request. So you just select this one. Suppose this is older one. So I want to delete this one. So we can delete. Yes. See here. Selected spool request is deleted. So this is how we can delete the spool request in SP01 and SP02. So and how the reorganization of the spool request. Reorganization means make it as it is, like the number range will be, suppose for example our spool request number range will be like 1 to 32,000. So if it is exceeds more than 32,000, we need to delete the spool request. So we can delete where we need to run the programs. So we can run SA38 or SC38. So these are the programs. The program is RSPO 0041. See here, delete old spool request. You just select this one, execute. So you can select the client number as well here. So we can give the minimum age. If it is older than 15 days or 30 days, you can delete the old spool request. So you just give it like this. You need to select the client, and then after you just execute it. See here, nothing was found to be deleted. If it is there, the spool request, we can get the numbers. How many spool request was deleted? So we can get the number here. Delete old spool request, delete all obsolete request. So this is all related to spool request only. We have one more program. So one more program is there, RSPO 1041. This is also related to old spool request only. Either this program we have to run, either this program. So to delete the old spool request, we need to perform 14 to 30 days. RSPO 0041 or else RSPO 1041. Like RSPO 1041 is giving the in detail information. Then RSPO 0041. You can mention the days here as well. So we can see in processing how many. So we can check actually if it is a real-time system, we can check. I'm just going back. So this is where we can reorganization of the spool request. If just come to SA38 or SC38. SC38. Same. So the screen is changed. That's it. You just to come here and enter the program name RSPO 0041 or RSPO 1041. And then after you just click execute. And then after it will take you the same screen which you have seen is just now. Execute. That's it. So it is giving the RSPO 1041 screen like this after executing. The system, spool ID, owner, created it, deleted time, created it time. So these many things we can observe in RSPO 1041 program. This is the screen of SC38. Before one is SC38. Two things I covered here, the same reasons. By this we have finished the two things actually. So TEMSE full, if it is TEMSE is full, that may be the reason these tables are full or file system storage is full. So by visiting the SP01, we can delete the old spool request or run the spool reorganization. These two applied for number range. If the number range exceeds more than 32,000. So what is number range? The troubleshooting is same for if it is TEMSE full, if it is a number range exceeds more than 32,000, the number range. So actually the TEMSE request number is TEMSE spool request number range is unique actually. Number range is set by default 1 to 32,000. If it is exceeds more than 32,000, we have to perform the same things. What we have done just now, we need to visit the SP01, we need to delete the Odoo spool request, or else we can delete in SP02 as well. So we can delete the SP02, old spool request in SP02 as well. And as well, we have to re-arg the old spool request. That means just to visit the SA38, or else we can visit the SC38, and next we have to run the program. So what is the program? RSPO 0041 or else RSPO 1041. So we have to run these two programs. So by running, what will happen? Whatever the old spool requests are there, those are deleted from the TEMSE. So if it is TEMSE is full, if it is number range exists more than 32,000, we have to do the same things. We need to visit the SP01, delete the old spool request. If it is exceeds more than 32,000 also, we need to visit the SP01, or else we have to re-arg with. How we are get to know this number ranges exceeds? So whatever the users, they are going to give the print request, right? So when they are giving the print request, they are going to get the error message like this. What is error message? Number range for spool request exhausted. So they are going to get this kind of message on the screen. So when they are going for print request, this number range exceeds. So we have to run this. Mostly we are going to run the reorganization jobs 15 to 30 days. Within 15 to 30 days, we have to delete the old spool request. Number one, the spool status is stuck in wait. If it is stuck in wait status, so assume that it is waiting for spool work process. It is waiting for spool work process. That means there are no spool work process, means already it is running. So if you want to increase the spool work process, where we can go? So we need to go to the application level RZ10, and then after we need to increase this value. Hard disk WP, no SPO. The parameter value we need to increase by 2 or 3. Based upon our requirement, we need to increase the parameter value. As of now, this is not required because one spool work process is enough for whole SAP system. This is enough actually. And when you get the error message, so this is when we are get the error status in SP01, what we are going to do? Error status, the printer went offline, the printer is misconfigured, so the printer settings has been changed. So and as well network issues also, this error message is going to be, we can see in SP01. So by that, where we can configure the printer, so SPAD is the T code. We can configure, and as well as we can change the printer settings. And if it is TEMSE is full, what we are going to do? TEMSE storage location is what? If it is DB, we have to check these tables, may full, or else if the file system, if it is like the storage location is G, this file system size like USR SAP SID sys global, or else SAP MNT SID global, those file system may be storage is full. And by that, for that we need to initially we need to check the TEMSE consistency, where we can check in SP12 we are going to check the TEMSE consistency. So in the TEMSE consistency, what we can observe, so we can check the statistics and as well as the space over there. So and then after, if the number range exceeds, the users, whenever they are going to request for print request, they are going to get this kind of message. The number range for spool request is exhausted. So they are going to come to us, like they are going to mail us. So on that, we are going to run the reorganization jobs. So these are the reorg jobs for spool. So for that, we need to visit the SA38 or AC38, and we need to run any of these kind of jobs. So we need to delete the older than 15 to 30 days spool request, and as well we can delete the spool request in SP01 and as well as the SP02 as spool request. So this is about spool status issues and as well as how we are going to troubleshoot. This is how we finish spool administration. The covered topics are spool work process, spool parameters, so TEMSE, we are having two locations. The TEMSE storage locations are DB and OS level. And we covered tables as well, TST01, TST03. And also we covered access methods. So what is local, what is remote, what is front end. We covered these things as well. And next we discussed spool printing architecture flow. So we covered this thing as well. And next just now we covered the spool statuses, the spool statuses, and as well as the spool status issues, and how we are going to troubleshoot by watching the statuses in SP01. So the T codes related to spool administration. So majorly we are going to visit these T codes. By using this SPAD T code, we are going to configure the printers, print devices, and as well we are going to change the printer settings by using this SPAD T code. And where we can monitor, the spool request in SP01, and as well as the statuses. We can watch the spool statuses in SP01. And if it is like a user specific spool request, we can monitor in any user. Any user they can monitor in SP02. What is this SP12? SP12 is the TEMSE consistency check. We can check the TEMSE consistency in SP12. And first, initially, if the problem related to any work process, where we can go, first we are going to check in SM50 whether the particular work process is allowable or not. So that is running or not. If it is went for hold status, if it is stopped. So everything we are going to check initially SM50 or SM66 and RZ10. So to change the parameter values. To change the parameter values, we are going to visit the RZ10 and we are going to select the default profile and change the parameters over there. And then after we need to restart the system. And then after SM37. So we are not covered this SM37. If a background job has a spool output request, so then we can monitor in SM37. SM37. Execute. See here. This is about background jobs actually. You see here the statuses. Here you can find a spool background job related. If the background job scheduled for spool request. So hey, where we can monitor in SM37, we can monitor. Even we can monitor this thing in SP01 as well. So the screen like list of spool request. It is coming here directly. SP01, let me check. Execute. The screen is giving two things. Previously 11367 is there into the SM37, right? Let me go there. /o SM37. Execute. Spool. So 11367 it is showing. This screen is about to SP01. This screen is SM37. Output controller list of spool request. But the screen is different. We can see only one request in SM37. If you go SP01, it is showing all the spool requests. That means like SP01 is for global print request. We can monitor here. And this is like a SM37 also, like it is a background job related. If any job is scheduled for spool request, any background job scheduled for background request, so those things we can monitor in SM37. Here also we can check the statuses. This is about SM37. We have completed successfully spool administration. If you have any doubts, you just watch the video again and again. Thank you. Bye.